The introduction of a bill to replace the current income tax system called a fair tax or a national sales tax is making headlines. And this would have some major implications for both tax planning and financial planning. This concept has been tossed around before unsuccessfully, but today we're going to talk about what the Fair Tax Act might look like, some planning ideas that you may want to consider, and a key planning takeaway. Stay tuned. Hey there, it's Alex and Anthony from 1 Degree Advisors, and we help you gain confidence in your retirement. So Anthony, the Fair Tax Act is on the table right now. I believe it's being proposed by the House of Republicans. I mean, the thing is this isn't necessarily new, right? This whole idea of an air quotes fair tax has been proposed before. It's very likely it's not going to go anywhere. Nonetheless, I think it's still interesting, and it's not a bad idea to be thinking about some potential planning ideas because it would be a huge, huge tax change. So let's just talk about some key planning takeaways in regards to a Fair Tax Act.
Yeah, you're right. It would significantly change tax planning because what it does is it replaces the income tax system and replaces it with basically a national sales tax. It's a tax on consumption. I'll put a chart up here just to show you just a brief example of what this will look like. So if you take the current cost, say something costs $100 today, a $30 tax would be added on top of that. And so you'll see how it's calculated different ways. People will call it a 23% tax, depending on how it's calculated. It's really 30% on top of that. This would include, when we're talking about income tax being replaced, it would include replacing payroll taxes, Social Security and Medicare, even corporate taxes.
So those would go away. So it's not just federal income tax, but that would also apply payroll taxes for those that are still working. Things like Social Security, Medicare would also not be taxed anymore.
Yeah, and Travis Sickle posted a really good video on this where he looks at a hypothetical example of the current income tax system versus the fair tax as it's proposed. There's more that goes into it. It's worth a watch. We'll post a link to that in our show notes.
Yeah, that's a good idea. So, I mean, the thing is, what would a flat tax incentivize? Because as you're talking about this right now, I'm not going to be enjoying, I don't enjoy paying California sales tax as it is. I would not enjoy paying a potential 30% sales tax on things. My Costco bill is large enough.
Right. You'd have to think that it would encourage savings because if you go out and spend, then you're going to get taxed on it more. People are at least going to think about it a bit more. It should encourage productivity. From the fact that there's no tax on added income, you're going to go out there and you're going to earn and not have to think about the additional tax. The other thing is that it could encourage more resale. Because I think as it's proposed, and obviously that could differ just a little bit, is that the tax would not be on resale items.
So what would we want to do if a fair tax were implemented? Again, it's kind of like it's an offshoot. It's not likely to happen, but if it were, what would we want to do?
Right. So it is good to learn from these type of things, and we're going to get to actually the key takeaway. But if something like this were to pass, number one is that you'd want to save pre-tax now. So like putting into the traditional IRAs, into the pre-tax 401k, as opposed to a Roth or even doing other Roth conversions, because there's no point in getting tax-free later if there is no income tax. You'd want to get the benefit now. The other thing that you'd want to happen is if say this really did go through Congress, is there would be a rush to buy new cars before this came about. You'd go out, you'd buy those big purchase items before the tax.
A huge spike in consumption.
Yeah, exactly. And then the third thing I would think would be that there would really be this push to grow income. And we think now, like, well, of course you want to grow your income, you want to earn more, but there are people where they're paying high percentages of income tax where it does really limit their benefit of earning more tax.
I've had dual income households, husband and wife are both working, and let's say they're spending a lot on childcare. And they have these discussions where they're like, one of the spouses, let's say it's the wife, she's like, why am I still working? We're paying all these taxes on my wages, and most of my salary right now, if we had to divide it up, is going towards childcare costs. So if I stopped working, we don't have to pay for those childcare costs. Plus, we're not going to keep taking a bath in taxes and keep getting pushed up into higher brackets. So you can definitely see that. But I'd say the key takeaway here is that, listen, like we discussed at the beginning, it's not likely to pass anytime soon. But that doesn't mean that you can't kind of plan and make good strategic decisions around this. I think this is a really good reminder that this is why tax flexibility is so important, right? And when we say tax flexibility, I mean having assets both in pre-tax accounts post-tax accounts, and then like taxable brokerage accounts. So many people are so focused on shoving as much money into a Roth as possible at the expense of paying a lot of taxes today, right? That's the big push right now. But like you're bringing up, if something like this were to pass, even though it's rare, right? You'd actually not want to be doing all these Roth conversions now. You'd want to wait till later. So that's where not making any big changes is so important, but thinking strategically, having that tax flexibility is so huge. And speaking of taxes, we did create a video called Beware of the Hidden Taxes in Retirement, specifically talking things like Medicare premium surcharges. Folks can watch that video above. Once again, this is Alex Okagawa with 1 Degree Advisors. And if you'd like to learn more about how we can help you with your retirement, visit our website at onedegreeadvisors.com/get started.